I am 109 years old. That's not a mistake. 109. I was born in 1917 in a small town outside Tulsa, Oklahoma, when horses still pulled wagons down dusty roads and the world was already at war. I have outlived presidents I voted for, 2 wives I loved with different kinds of love, my only son, and nearly every friend who once knew my full name. And yet, I am not lonely. People hear my age and tilt their heads with that soft, careful pity and ask, "Aren't you lonely being the last one left?" They think loneliness is a quiet room, an empty chair across the table, a phone that doesn't ring. They think it's silence. But silence and loneliness are not the same thing. I live in a nursing home now, beige walls and polished floors that smell like lemon cleaner, with one stubborn oak tree outside my window that refuses to die even in winter. A young nurse named Emily once sat beside me while checking my blood pressure and asked if I was lonely. I laughed so hard I started coughing. Life, I told her, is like a long train ride. You get on crying, and someone else is holding your ticket. For me, that was my mother, who smelled of lavender and starch. My father got off early during the Depression, heart worn out from worry. I was 16. That's the thing about trains, people get off at different stations. I married Clara in 1939 before shipping out to war. She wore a blue dress and said I talked too much. War taught me about fear, about how fast laughter can turn into silence. Boys I ate breakfast with were gone by supper. When I came home, Clara was waiting on the platform with our baby boy in her arms, and I thought I understood loneliness from those nights overseas. I was wrong. That was fear. Loneliness is something else. Clara died in 1968 from cancer, slow and cruel. I held her hand as she slipped away, and afterward the house felt enormous. The clock was too loud, the bed too wide, her chair at the table too empty. I thought that emptiness was loneliness, but grief is loud, it crashes and echoes and howls inside your chest. It is not quiet at all. Years later I married Ruth, whose laughter could cut through thunderstorms. We didn't replace what we lost. We built something new with what we had left. That's how grown people love, not with fireworks, but with steady hands. She passed peacefully when I was 89. By then my army buddies were gone, and my son had died in a car accident at 52. No parent should bury a child, that kind of loss hollows you out in a way that never quite fills back in. Yes, I have sat in quiet rooms. Yes, I have watched snow fall alone. Yes, I have eaten at tables with no one across from me. But loneliness did not live there. Loneliness shows up when you don't know who you are without the noise. After I retired in my 70s, I almost met it. I had been George Walker, supervisor longer than I had been just George. When I left the factory, I felt invisible, like I had stepped off the train but it kept moving. For months I drifted, waiting for someone to need me. That's when loneliness knocks. Not when people die, not when the house is quiet, but when you stop belonging to yourself. I had to learn who I was without a uniform, without a title, without someone calling Dad from down the hall. I found out I liked feeding birds at dawn, black coffee, old jazz records, and sitting on a porch without filling every silence with words. I became my own company. Once you can sit with yourself and not feel the urge to run, loneliness loses its teeth. Now at 109, I watch other residents here. Some have visitors every Sunday and still stare at the walls like they're lost. Others haven't had company in years and yet they laugh with nurses and read in peace. The difference isn't how many people are in the room, it's whether you made peace with yourself before the room got quiet. Emily once asked if I was afraid of being forgotten. Forgotten by who? History forgets everyone eventually. That's its job. But the moments, the way Clara squeezed my hand before surgery, the way Ruth danced barefoot in the kitchen, the way my son used to whistle off-key, those live in me. And I am still here. One day the train will slow, the conductor will tip his hat, and I'll gather my small suitcase of memories and step off. But I won't be lonely, because loneliness is not the absence of people. It's the absence of a relationship with your own soul. If you cannot sit alone for 10 minutes without reaching for noise, you are not afraid of being alone, you are afraid of meeting yourself. I have met myself in war, in grief, in retirement, and in this narrow bed beside the oak tree. He's not perfect, that man I found. He has regrets and scars and stories he wishes he could rewrite, but he stayed. He didn't abandon himself when others left. That's the secret. So no, I am not lonely at 109. I am simply the last passenger in my compartment for now. The seats beside me are empty, yes, but they are warm with memory. I know who I am even in the quiet. When my stop comes, I imagine Clara and Ruth and my boy standing on the platform, waving like they've just been in another car all along. Until then, I sit by the window, sip my coffee slowly, watch that stubborn oak tree bend in the wind, and when the room grows silent at night, I do not panic. I listen. Because sometimes silence is not loneliness at all. Sometimes, it is peace.